Greetings in the wonderful name of our one and only invisible Messiah, announced as Immanuel, also called Iesus, modern way of Jesus. Basically, I think, and for the basically sort of like correct pronunciation in the current Greek, I think it was actually it was spelled Iesoos, but I think it's actually sort of transliterated as Iesous, Iesus. And yeah, well, isn't it sort of like the greatest basically sort of like a reason for basically sort of like the name his name that he would be announced as being in the sort of like the Old Testament. See, thanks for giving yourself permission to say that. Can you have a good day? Thanks a lot. Yeah, sort of like so also basically sort of like so I usually so basically sort of like yeah, sorry, I was just thinking whether I should just like delete. But anyway, so like, I think that'll be alright because I didn't get his face. Yeah, sure, like because I didn't want to put anyone basically like appearance on the video without their permission, or without them allowing themselves permission to communicate that they would basically, instead of just like internally agreeing, but internally agreeing and then basically communicating it by putting it forth in speech or writing, or basically even as in art sign language. So anyway, so it was alright to get back to it. So isn't it sort of like a practical? Sort of, the information basically sort of like that it was prophesied basically that he would be announced as being we'll need to like translate his name basically, translate his name of the basically Hebrew being Emmanuel, but according to the correct pronunciation of it and the spelling. And when they spell it to how it's pronounced, it's actually pronounced Immanuel. So isn't it sort of like, I think they've updated basically sort of like the online isn't it when I say updated, isn't I think maybe sort of like they delist the information to basically. So like they mismanage some of the information, I think basically now in the sort of like our latest. Well, isn't it? I was going to say editions basically should be available at the concordance, but isn't it? They said like they put too much information in there, so like to confuse away from actually sort of like the meaning of the actual sort of like the word by including other sort of like other information. About the definition of the word, but so I was announced that the name Immanuel. So should like some pronunciations spell it with an Immanuoale, and now so like as I was saying, what they've seemed to have changed it to is Eammanuoale, so Emmanuel or Emmanuel. But I sort of like first read when I first learned it how to pronounce it. It as accurately basically according to the arrangement of the pronunciation lettered in English letters, Emmanuel with an I. But isn't it? It's only sort of like a E and a E and Emmanuel, or Emmanuel. Yeah. So I apologise for going on about that. Yeah. So I mean, sort of like by sort of like wanting to explain so much detail about that. So basically, I think, isn't it sort of like reasonable to think the reason why sort of like she not sort of like let it remain basically sort of like Immanuel, which, isn't it sort of like in the Old Testament they say it meant Elohim with us, but isn't it revealed in the New Testament it was translated from Theos with us and not actually Theon with us. And isn't it, we know that actually Theos, based on the description of who our Messiah is described as being, according to the overall information of him, basically sort of like even, inquiry is like even revealed basically in sort of like translations, sort of like of several translations in comparison, and then basically sort of like, and then sort of like reverting back to sort of like the original word, that he was sort of like, that he was not begotten from Mary, but I think, he was not begotten from God, but he was actually sort of like begotten from Mary, sort of like begotten from Mary. The living soul now says Mary, and so isn't it sort of like things just quieten down then? Yeah. So anyway, So it's right to So Abiat basically sort of like his name from Immanuel to Aizos, basically being that, I think I've already covered it, but isn't it, I like to talk about it. Talk about the information according to why the possibility of it going from sort of like Aizos with us. Actually sort of going from figuratively magistrate with us. And isn't it that's actually sort of like one of the selectable definitions of Elohim with us as well. Elohim being sort of like uniquely sort of like defined as in the same definition arrangement basically as Theos, and not which is figuratively magistrate with us basically based on the description. So I apologise for going around circles basically, so like with the information, but hopefully, isn't it, you can put two and two together. Yeah, so Elohim and Theos actually sort of like has the same basically sort of like available definitions, different uses like judges, also basically the one and only God, and like I think he sort of heavenly, a heavenly creation of God, like described as being like an angel too. So basically sort of like So basically I think basically sort of like to hide, I think sort of like I think maybe sort of like Joseph, and basically sort of like the soul of Joseph, and basically sort of like I'll let you know, Joseph, the reason why I see the soul of Joseph and the soul of Mary basically is because isn't it that the words Joseph and Mary, they aren't their words. It isn't it sort of like it's is it known that's that descriptive basically word. I think Miriam basically sort of like Mary or any name actually is sort of like a description of the character basically should it go, or the of who they, or who the parents want their offspring to sort of like or who they thought they might resemble in sort of like in unique character appearance. So gifted them basically sort of like descriptive basically sort of like word to distinguish one soul's body basically, sort of like one soul, one living soul body as well, basically, sort of like from another. So, which is why there basically isn't, why there's different sort of like names. We're not all called. We're not all called George or Gregory. Or Sven, or Richard, we're all basically isn't it? So like the reason why there is differentiations of words, the different is because basically like each living soul, human living soul, basically, basically each living soul who basically is infused with a human body, basically can manage that word that was assigned to them by their mother, by their basically guardian. Guardian to be used in similar accord as a trademark or a distinguisher of souls, so that basically just souls who have bodies, basically, so that basically within a group of people, someone might go, "Hey, Maxwell, can I ask you a question, Maxwell?" And so within the 10 people there, with all different, basically, words given to them. To Maxwell, the soul, living soul, basically, who was given the word Maxwell, knows that basically it's the conversation is directed to him by another living soul, so that he could basically allow himself basically to basically to decide whether he wants to whether he wants to basically allow himself permission and then allow himself permission to communicate it, basically, oh yeah. How can I help ya, Brother John? Isn't it that I think basically a Mary having the same, or Jesus basically having the same similar basically meaning as Immanuel, being figuratively magistrate with us, and if my memory serves me right, or if the information that I attributed to factual was basically, I think a Yeshua or a Jesus basically was basically assigned to God is salvation, Yeah, so basically, and basically yeah, so I think and our wonderful Messiah's father, I think basically through that Vortis Wi-Fi infusion, basically could basically could basically could feel and knew everything, basically. I want to know in Messiah, who was inserted in the cerebral cortex, basically area, basically felt when he was basically going through the execution and basically punishment. And so So 15 minutes. Oh.